It's the conversation for this Thursday, the 27th of March. Blaise Bryant here with you as always. It is another off-the-shelf episode of The Conversation. Today, I'm bringing back interviews that have never aired on Radio St. Rose. These interviews were taped at the WAMC Northeast Public Radio Studios in Albany, New York. With the baseball season starting next week, there's no better time to get us into the mood for yet another exciting season. The first conversation was with Boston Redsox radio broadcaster Joe Castiglione. For over 30 years, Castiglione has been telling stories about the lives of baseball players with a flair for the dramatic moment. His signature phrase, "Can you believe it?" is so basic, yet what comes to mind after that stellar play on the field or dramatic home run? Castiglione has been at the mic for 3 World Series victories for the Red Sox. In 2004 against the St. Louis Cardinals, 2007 against the Colorado Rockies, and the storybook 2013 World Series against the St. Louis Cardinals. We spoke in May of 2012.
Blaise Bryant here. How are you?
Great, Blaise. Great to be with you. And I know Red Sox Nation listens regularly.
Absolutely. And I remember you were the first baseball announcer I ever listened to growing up. I live in northern New York, and I heard you on a WDEV FM and AM, and I said to myself, this is what I want to be. And I would like to greatly thank you for being one of the most influential figures.
Well, thank you very much. That's very flattering. I guess it means you've been around a while and you're getting old, but it is great to hear. I know I used to tell Ken Coleman that when I worked with him. I wasn't quite, the first one I listened to was Mel Allen, but Ken was one of the first I listened to, and then I got a chance to work with him, which was really special.
And do talk about that experience.
Well, Ken brought me to Boston, in effect, in 1983. John Miller had left to go to Baltimore. Ken was looking for a partner. Usually broadcasters don't have a lot of say in who's hired, but Ken did that year, fortunately for me. And it was great. I sort of followed in his footsteps. He was a New Englander who went to Cleveland and worked, which I did as well. He did Indians and Browns. I did Indians TV and anchored local TV. And then came to Boston and had 7 wonderful years with Ken, who was really a master of the big moment, the special events, and was also one of the great TV football guys ever, maybe the best. Used the Economy Awards, putting captions under pictures. But Ken also introduced me to the Jimmy Fund of the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. He was the chairman, and it was his passion. And when Ken retired, I succeeded him in part of his role with the Jimmy Fund. Mike Andrews became the chairman, replacing Ken, but I had some of his role and still do to this day, and of course have a seat in the broadcast booth and look at his picture every time we go in or out of our booth. It's right outside our broadcast booth at Fenway.
And I can tell that Ken has a great influence on you because of the sign-off that you do on an annual basis.
Right. I followed that up, and we always give him credit because he started it, the Bart Giamatti Green Fields of the Mind. It breaks your heart. It's designed to break your heart. And, that was something that I carried on in Ken's honor. I also had a great chance to travel and be with Ned Martin, even though I never worked with Ned on a broadcast. When the Red Sox won the World Series, one of my lines was "Pandemonium on the field" in honor of Ned Martin, which is what he said in '67, of course.
Absolutely, and I remember that call just as clear as day. I want to take a step back and focus on the preparation aspect, which to me kind of seems to go under the radar. What do you do on a daily basis to prepare for a broadcast?
Well, I think you prepare from day one when you're a kid with baseball cards, reading the back of the cards, reading history, and it's a compilation. It's like a pyramid. Whatever happens in baseball today is built on what happened yesterday or last week or last month or last year or 10 years ago or 2 generations ago. And I think that you need that basic background. It's not like football or basketball or hockey where the action carries itself, because you got to fill the dead spots between pitches, and having that background is essential. So I've done that for a lifetime. As far as the day-to-day, I do a file card on every player in the American League, so that it helps me with my recall and also a reference. I read, the internet, read the out-of-town newspaper stories and internet stories, and also, of course, the Globe and the Herald every day, and Baseball America. You have to do all of that preparation to be ready, but you have to be a good editor, too, because there's so much information out there.
And how do you go about the filtering aspect of the preparation?
Well, I think you have to go with what's important, what you think is important, what people want to know. And I think if you have a choice between an anecdote or a number or statistic, you always go with the anecdote, because that's what the people remember and that's what people like. Some people are scared by numbers. I think any number you use should tell a story. So you really have to be judicious in what you do. And, of course, you have to be careful of blogs, because there's a lot of misinformation as well. But I think that most of the standard websites are pretty accurate, and you can depend on them. But most of our information, most of our people are interested in our guys. It is a hometown broadcast.
I was listening to an earlier interview that you did, and you talked about being a good storyteller. How does one go about acquiring that skill?
Well, I think, first of all, you're a good listener. That's where it starts. You have to be a good listener to get the background information. You have to be a good listener to pick up stories. If you do that, then you can, I think, be able to relate stories better and entertain. But I think, you have to know how to tell a news story. Some kind of an introduction, some kind of a body, some kind of a conclusion. And you try to make it as concise and interesting as you can, because you got to fit it between pitches. And every pitcher has a different pace. But Curt Smith, the baseball broadcast historian, did a book called The Storytellers, a follow-up book called A Walk in the Park, and I think it really describes what we are. We told our stories, and Curt put them together in a book, and most of them are not more personal experiences than you tell between pitches, but I think it's essential to do that. And, of course, we're relating the stories of what's happening in the game factually as well.
And that is something that you are certainly the gold standard at. You have had the luxury of working with several different play-by-play announcers throughout your career as a Red Sox broadcaster. For example, Jerry Trupiano, Dave O'Brien, Glenn Geffner, John Risch, and Dale Arnold.
And Bob Starr.
Correct. I did forget about Bob. Now, what is it like going through and developing those different relationships?
Well, I think most of them happen naturally, and our style has always been to have a conversation in the booth, because when you go to a game, you normally chat with the person next to you or 2 seats away about baseball, and maybe about something not related to baseball. So I think you have to have a good rapport, and I think it has to come naturally. The days of doing my innings and your innings are long gone, because the games are so long now. And, where I'm doing a 3.5 hour game, Mal Allen was doing an hour and 45-minute to 2 hour game. So it's entirely different, and you develop that rapport, I guess, on the air and off the air as well. And in my case, I've been fortunate to have great relationships with my partners off the air as well. Never had any trepidations with any of them or any problems. I was wondering, when Bob Feller was my partner doing Cleveland TV, what that would be like, because I heard Bob, was certainly a star since the age of 17, but that worked out great. We had a wonderful time together. So I think a lot of it is, being a good listener to your partner, as well as listening to get information to relate to the audience.
You also have another life as a professor at Northeastern, and I had the luxury the other day of talking with a former intern of yours, Josh Heller.
Oh, yes, Josh has done very well in hockey and in baseball, and I started that in 1985 because our intern was a Northeastern student, and quite frankly, I was looking for a little income boost, and not that that was much of a factor in the long run, but I did enjoy it, and I've had a lot of students who've been very successful. Don Orsillo, our television broadcaster, Leslie Sterling, who became the first female public address announcer in the American League, and several like Josh who have worked in minor league hockey and sports. We have a young man, Chris DePiro, who's the group sales director and marketing director for the Boston Bruins. And a lot of kids who just want to have some fun and have a class at Fenway and get an easy A.
You do take some of them on the road with you. How do you go about that selection?
Well, we hire one in our broadcast booth as an intern, statistician, and they do a home games only. And we do have a class at Fenway. We bring the class to Fenway every November, and they have a seminar with Red Sox executives, the likes of Larry Lucchino and Charles Steinberg, Sam Kennedy, broadcasting and marketing people. And, basically with the intern we hire in our booth, you try to judge whether they would fit personality-wise, if they have enough interest in baseball, if they really want to do it. And I think that we've been very successful with the ones we pick. Usually we keep them for 1 year, in some cases 2 years. Last three have been female students. They seem to be much more interested than some of my other students, and it's been great.
That's definitely quite interesting for sure. We have been speaking with Joe Castiglione about the broadcasting experiences as well as his experience as a professor at Northeastern. Joe, it has really been a delight to speak with you, and I look forward to hearing you tomorrow against the Orioles.
Well, thank you so much. We need some wins.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Bye-bye.
That was Boston Red Sox broadcaster Joe Castiglione. In December 2013, he was chosen as a finalist for the Ford C. Frick Award for Broadcast Excellence. He has also been inducted into the Red Sox Hall of Fame. His books, Can You Believe It? 30 Years of Insider Stories with the Boston Red Sox, and Broadcast Rights and Sites, I Saw It on the Radio with the Boston Red Sox, are both available on Amazon.com. Coming up next, I talk with a baseball writer who is blind. The conversation on Radio St. Rose continues in 15 seconds. Ed Lucas is one of the most well-known baseball writers in the New York sports scene. He beat the odds that were stacked against him, being both blind and successful during a time when the only way to write was by feeding a large piece of paper into a Braille machine and have someone transcribe what's on the paper was almost unimaginable. We spoke in December of 2013. This conversation aired on WAMC's The Roundtable as my final internship project. For nearly 55 years, journalist Ed Lucas has proven there are no true handicaps in life. Despite his dreams of reaching baseball's big leagues, Lucas lost his sight at the age of 12 after being hit in the face with a line drive. While unable to play the game, he has been a presence in the New York sports scene for more than a half a century as a reporter covering the Yankees and Mets. Lucas has covered the playoffs, World Series, and All-Star games, and has worked as a syndicated radio personality, print journalist, and won an Emmy Award for his work on the Yes Network. Ed Lucas, welcome to the Roundtable.
Thank you, and good morning, and happy to be with you.
Well, thank you so much. Ed, how did you fall in love with baseball?
My mother and father were great baseball fans, and we lived in Jersey City, New Jersey, where in those days we had a minor league club called the Jersey City Giants, and at Roosevelt Stadium. And that was the first place that Jackie Robinson ever played his first professional game. I happened to be at that game in 1946. He hit a home run that day. And my parents, we lived in a housing project. They didn't have much money, but they loved the game, and we went to see the Jersey City Giants. Grew up Giant fans. My father and mother were Giant fans, and the love of the game just grew every day, and I couldn't wait from one season to the other.
And it ultimately led to you getting a ball and glove and getting some friends together and playing sandlot games.
Absolutely. My Uncle Gene Fury, who was a semi-pro, and he played on a team, and he gave me his uniform when he played for a team called the Eagles, with number 4 on the back. There was a woolen uniform, and I lived in that thing from April to September. My mother would have to wash it every day. I mean, it was, that's all I wanted to wear was the baseball uniform. And I wore that as long as I could. And I just loved the game. And the day I lost my sight, I thought it was the end of the world. What could a blind person do? My image of a blind person was someone standing on a corner with a tin cup and a cane begging for money. That's all I remember. Going through New York with my sister Maureen and mother and father, and we would see these blind men and women standing there with a cup and a cane and begging. And when I lost my sight, that was my first image. And I said I would never, never, never do that. And with the encouragement of my family and my faith, gave me the impetus to go on.
You talk about losing your sight after the Giants won the pennant in 1951 when Bobby Thompson hit the shot around the world. When you lost your sight back in the 1950s, was that how people were perceived in terms of blindness, of having a cane and cup and selling pencils? Absolutely. Blind people couldn't do anything else. Either that or running a vending stand, maybe selling newspapers or something like that. But most images of blind people were standing on a corner with a tin cup and a cane. And I vowed I would never, never, never do that. And I went on to a Catholic school, and then I went on to the New York Institute for the Education of the Blind in the Bronx, where I spent 4 years. I was a residential student, and I found out that other blind people loved baseball. It wasn't only me, that other blind people loved it. So I started a club called the Diamond Dusters. And having a relationship with Phil Rizzuto, the great shortstop for the Yankees, my mother, when I first lost my sight, brought me to meet him in the American shops in Newark. And he took an interest in me. He gave me his phone number. He was the MVP of the 1950 season, and in 1951 he was the MVP of the World Series. And here, this MVP said to me, "Here's my phone number. Anytime you want to talk or you want to meet with me or whatever," he said, "you just call me." He lived in Hillside, New Jersey, and it wasn't far from Jersey City. And he said, "I guess I can't have yours. You probably have an unlisted number." And, of course, I gave him my number, and the rest is history. Scooter used to come over to my house and take me out to dinner and just to go for a ride sometimes and to encourage me. I mean, ball players today wouldn't do this. And he just gave me the impetus to go on. He said the love of the game that I had, and I would go over to the stadium and I would start meeting players, and I interviewed Willie Mays in 1957 at the Polo Grounds. The last year they were there in the dugout.
one of the men that ran the dugout knew me from coming into the games with my mother all the time, and he said, would you like to meet anybody? I said, I'd like to interview some of these guys. And so that's how it all started. I said, this is what I want to do. And I was accepted at Seton Hall University, and I studied communication arts. And at first it was difficult. Nobody could believe that a blind person could follow sports and, write articles. How could you write something when you can't see? Or how could you talk about it when you can't see? So I had to prove myself. I had to work and send out articles and radio shows. I would send tapes, but I wouldn't get paid because they couldn't believe a blind person could do this. So finally, I had to convince people, and finally got paid from some newspapers and radio stations. And, of course, Rizzuto was the encouragement. Most of the writers were very bitter that I was taking up time in the press box and space. I had a guide with me. Someone always took me to the game. I had my seeing eye dog, but they always took me to the game, drove me there, and so forth. So there were 2 seats taken up.
And I want to backtrack for just a second in terms of you talking about how people who are blind having a love for baseball. It's very easy, and I think safe to say that baseball is and always will be such a radio-friendly sport, which draws people who cannot see what's going on the field to the game better than any other sport.
Absolutely. And we were very fortunate here in the New York metropolitan area going back to the 50s. We had some great baseball announcers, and I can fortunately say that they were all friends of mine. Russ Hodges, who made the famous call on Bobby Thompson, he broadcast for the Giants, and Red Barber was the broadcaster for the Dodgers, and Vince Scully started at age 19 in 1949, coming out of Fordham University. One of the Dodger announcers got sick, and he stepped in. Of course, he's a legend today and still doing the Dodger games over 60 years out in Los Angeles. And the Yankees had the great Mel Allen, and later on Red Barber joined him. But then Rizzuto, when he retired in 1956, after a great Major League career, he went up into the booth until 1997 and worked with Mel Allen. He was one of the first jockeys, as they called them, ball players. There weren't too many ball players doing baseball games. I make about 120, 130 baseball games a year. Even today, between the Mets and the Yankees, it's a wonderful relationship. And, of course, the announcers, you grow up with them and feel like you're part of their family. And I'm fortunate enough to know them and work with them.
You talk about the announcers and sitting up in the press box with the games and when you were reporting. How were you able to find your way down to the field and interview a particular athlete?
I have a sighted guide, someone that always comes with me, and I tell him who I want to talk to. Sometimes I'll go to the media relations director of the team and say, can you get so-and-so, and I would like to speak to him. And after a while, you build a relationship with these guys throughout Major League Baseball. And I would go up to them and say, listen, do you have 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or I want to do a feature on you? And if they had time, they would say, yeah, or see me later.
Phil Rizzuto introduced you to your current wife, Allison, who at the time the two of you were introduced, she was a florist for Rizzuto. And you got married at home plate in Yankee Stadium.
That is correct. Allison actually graduated Seton Hall University with a nursing degree. She was valedictorian. And one morning she woke up and she lost part of her sight. And she worked in a florist while going to school, so he knew her, but her aunt worked in the florist. And Rizzuto said, what's the matter, Marlene? You don't seem right. He said, "Oh, my niece is losing her sight and depressed. She can't do anything. There's nothing out there for her." And he said, "Well, I have a friend who's very successful." He said, "Maybe I can have him call her." Well, we called, and I was on the phone with her for about 6 or 7 years, and they always say that the state of New Jersey wouldn't give either one of us a driver's license to go visit each other.
Right.
So finally we met, and we got married, and it was at home plate at the old Yankee Stadium, March 10th, 2006, and the grounds crew to come out and make it look as if it was opening day. It was 74 degrees in March. They had the scoreboard all lit up, and they had the microphone up. A friend of mine from the Phantom of the Opera sang at the wedding. And then we had a reception up in the Yankee Club, and George paid for the entire thing. The Yankee organization, I should say, and George Steinbrenner paid for the entire thing.
What was it about home plate at Yankee Stadium that you knew you wanted to be married there?
Well, my wife, Allison, is a big, big, big baseball fan. She's a big baseball fan, too. So I just thought it was natural, and I just said to her, "Would you like to get married at Yankee Stadium?" She said, "You think it can be worked out?" I said, "I have no idea, but I'll request it." And I requested it, and the rest is history. At first, the woman who's in charge of non-baseball events, she got the request from George saying this couple wants to be married at home plate, and she called him up. She said, "You told me never, never, never to allow anybody to be married at home plate." And he said, "Well, he's part of our family, and this is what Ed wants. This is what he will get. We will allow him to be married at home plate." So she set everything up and called us in to talk to us about the reception and what kind of food, so forth and so on. And that's how it happened.
Ed Lucas has been a reporter covering Major League Baseball for over 50 years. He also maintains a foundation for people who are blind and disabled. You can find out more information by going to edlucasfoundation.org. Ed, I thank you so much for your time and your generosity, and it has really been a delight and honor to speak with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and listen, good luck to you. Anything I can do to help you, please let me know. But best of luck to you.
For the Roundtable, I'm Blaise Bryant.
And I want to thank you for listening to the conversation here on Radio St. Rose. And we hope you got something from it and enjoyed the first time that these shows were ever aired on Radio St. Rose. To listen to this show as well as past shows, please go to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Radio St. Rose Conversation. The shows with production assistance coming from Joe Donahue and Ian Pickus, both at WAMC Northeast Public Radio. Until next